Hey guys, we're back with episode 9 of Monarch Legacy of the Monsters, which has answered a lot of the questions I've had over the course of this series. It's got some surprises and is easily my favorite episode so far. Now, if you've been following this video series thus far, you know the drill. And if this is your first video, I don't know why you picked this one, so go back and watch the others first. But I like to go through each episode chronologically, which means I cover the flashbacks first. Now, episode 9 takes us to Kansas in 1962. Kansas just happens to have a portal to Hollow Earth. Now, this is the first flashback we've seen of Shaw and Bill post Keiko's death. And in between those two periods, Monarch has developed a way to follow the Titans into Hollow Earth by luring them in through the portal using a gamma radiation device, and then turning off the device so that the Titans return through the portal and the humans follow them in sort of like a space pod. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, it seemed like they were changing the logic behind following Titans through to Hollow Earth. In Godzilla vs. Kong, they made it seem like they just needed Kong to guide them to Hollow Earth, but they still needed the heaves, the special vehicles that helped to fight the reverse gravitational pull while going through the portals. But it seems like what they're going with now is that the portals recognize and accept Titan DNA and allow them to pass through without injury. Now, if you happen to travel through the portal while the Titan is traveling through it, then it doesn't even register you. So basically, you're just as safe as the Titan is. So basically, before the United States government even gets a man into space, they're sending a man to underspace. Now, this is a 4-crew ship, one of them being Shaw, but this is the first and last trip to underspace as the portal implodes after the crew is sent through and the crew ends up facing their deaths, at least all of them but Shaw. Now, once their pod arrives on Hollow Earth, one member of the crew immediately dies on impact, and over some period of time, another one is killed by a Titan, and the last one is killed by a buildup of portal energy that forms these like towers of electric shocks that almost kill May towards the end of the episode. But Shaw survived, and at some point he ends up getting sucked through this vortex and ends up in Japan in 1982. He's found wandering around in some forest and is eventually brought into a Monarch medical facility. But I want to briefly go back and mention that the catastrophic failure of this first test flight into underspace led to the government completely removing funding for Monarch. And so I believe that it's at that point where Monarch falls apart and is reduced to the position that we see in Kong Skull Island, where the older Bill Randa, played by John Goodman, has basically a very small, maybe even just 2-man department who are out there trying to collect data and find proof of the existence of Hollow Earth. But returning to 1982, Shaw is at this medical facility and meets Kentaro's mother, Emiko. Now, Kentaro's mother is just a nurse at this Monarch facility. She is not at this time Kentaro's mother, nor even the wife of Hiroshi. Though it does explain why she's a lot more composed than Kate's mother, because obviously she's seen some of this stuff before. But Shaw, upon waking, also meets with Hiroshi. Now, Hiroshi is a grown man at this point. Assuming he was born in the early 1950s or late 1940s, he would be somewhere between his 30s and 40s. And where Shaw sees a familiar face, he also sees another chance to try and atone for what happened to Keiko and to restart the search for Hollow Earth that got Bill Randa killed on Skull Island. But Hiroshi outright rejects him, and he's incredibly resentful that his parents and his uncle left him behind for this mad search for the Titans. He explains to Shaw that, as far as they know, Titans and humanity survived in a balance for thousands of years, and it wasn't until Shaw, Keiko, and Bill got together and started searching for them that problems started happening. And so from there, Shaw is put into the retirement home that we saw in episode 1 and is basically drugged into being docile for, I guess, some 30-something years until the 2014 battle between Godzilla and the Mutos. And obviously then he stops taking his meds and waited some months until Kate, Kentaro, and May end up showing up. So there's the answer to how Shaw looks so young. The incident that led to his eternal youth seems not to be a serum or gamma rays, as I kind of jokingly theorized, but rather some form of time travel or time distortion related to the reverse gravitational forces while going through the portals. And it's kind of interesting that Hiroshi took that attitude with Shaw when Shaw is like the one guy from his childhood, the one guy from his past. He's there. he's returned, but Hiroshi just rejects him. And yet, 30 years later, Hiroshi is basically doing the same thing to his own family. He left his family behind to search for these portals. They thought he died. And in this episode, he learns from Kentaro that Kate did in fact die. Now, we know as the audience that she didn't die. She's in Hollow Earth, but Kentaro, his mother, and Hiroshi don't know that. Neither does Monarch, by the way. They think Shaw, May, and Kate are dead until towards the end of the episode, they start getting a signal from Hollow Earth. So I've kind of gone over a number of the present day events already, but I haven't really talked about May, Shaw, and Kate. So at the end of the last episode, the three characters fell into the portal in Kazakhstan with the giant beetle titan and went through the portal, which we now know is possible as long as you travel through it with a titan. And basically, May and Shaw landed near each other in the forest, but Kate ended up by herself, and she's about to be killed by this boar-like titan when she's saved by Keiko, of all people, who hasn't aged a day. Now, that was a huge surprise. I did not see them bringing Keiko back. And it'll be interesting to see when Shaw and May meet up again with Kate and Keiko, how that whole thing is going to go down. It'll be pretty weird because Shaw is like, I guess he's physically in his 60s or something, and Keiko is still, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s. And obviously Bill is dead, but Hiroshi, by the way, I've talked a lot about Shaw's age, and that's mainly because we didn't know how he was so young. But when you think about it, Hiroshi at this point has to be in his 60s because he was born in the late 40s, early 50s. So Hiroshi is physically the oldest guy among his family. You know, for Shaw, those 20 years weren't 20 years, so he didn't age. And Keiko is obviously super young still. Now, for episode 10, everything is going to coalesce. We can assume that there will be a reunion between Shaw and Keiko. There will be a later reunion between Shaw, Keiko, and Hiroshi, as well as the rest of the family. For that reunion to take place, Shaw and Keiko would have to have some type of communication with Monarch, or possibly even by themselves be able to travel back to the regular world, perhaps as a result of one of those vortexes. But then what happens from there? Will Keiko return to Monarch? Will Shaw return to Monarch? Mainly what I'm wondering is, are they going to conclude this series with a bang, with a big Titan-related event in the finale? Or is it going to be a quieter conclusion focused on the end of the story regarding the birthright of Kate and Kentaro Randa and the legacy of Monarch? But like I said, it was a great episode. Super surprised by Keiko being alive, and I'm not sure how I like the rules they've changed regarding the traveling through the portals. I mean, we went from ultra technologically advanced flying cars that can withstand gravitational forces to kind of a spaceman pod in the 1960s to Shaw just falling through the portal without any protective gear or anything and being able to withstand that. But let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss out on a new video. Thanks for watching.